At some stage, as a researcher, you would have come across debates around the end of the paradigm wars. That is the push for a new research culture emphasizing on mixed methods research that's aimed at negating the so-called shortcomings of qualitative and quantitative research methods when conducted separately, and also the shortcomings of inductive and deductive research approaches when done separately. Both the qualitative and quantitative research methods have received their fair share of criticism. In social research, qualitative methods have been criticized for their inability to generalize a research problem. On the other hand, the quantitative methods have been criticized for their limitations in exposing the in-depth substance of social phenomena. The argument is that social phenomena cannot be fully understood by only quantifying their representation. The push for mixed methods is particularly sought to find a solution to harness the strengths of qualitative and quantitative methods, and thus eliminating the discrepancies of the individual methods. But how do we do it? How do we justify the mixing of the methods? If you are a novice researcher, you may be left overwhelmed by the need for a mixed method research methodology, but without a specific research design or a guidance of how to conduct it. I come from an experimental intervention research background, and in my discipline, researchers often question whether to utilize a case study or an action research design, with critics of case study pointing out that it is too theory focused and misses the point. By that, they mean that there is a disconnect between the, the findings of the academia and what's happening in the field or happening in practice. Those who are against action research lament that the design lacks a theoretical backbone. But here's the good news. The good news is with the herald of mixed methods, we can now bridge the disconnect between theoretical knowledge and practice by blending the two research designs together. There is a well-established research design called action case study that combines case study and action research together. Hi, my name is Alan Zana. I am a high degree research student at Central Queensland University. My interest is utilizing action case study to test the practicalities of disability models in real life settings and to find strategic methods to improve employment outcomes of people with acquired disabilities. My topic today is action case study and embedded multi-method research design that tests a theory while solving a real-life problem. There is my email address if you need to contact me after this. And I have also included my ORCID number there in case you want to trace my publications and cite me accordingly. I would appreciate that. The purpose of this presentation is to contribute to the theme, bridging the gap, fostering research excellency through education and experience. I seek to do this by outlining the basic way to conduct a blended action case study research design. I shall expound on it now. Action case study is a research design that combines case study and action research methods to test an existing theory while simultaneously or at the same time addressing a real life problem. It tests a theory in a real life setting by experimenting on the claims of a theory on a real life environment. If the theory does not hold the ground, we adjust both the theory and the environment until they systematically match. The primary goal of systematically combining action research and case study together is to enable the testing of an existing theory while finding a solution to a real life problem. This process is called experimental intervention. Experiments allow us to draw conclusions about cause and effect relationships between an intervention or treatment and an outcome. It involves both the intervention and the observation and compares the outcomes between the experimental group receiving structured intervention and the control group that is not receiving the structured intervention. That is between intervention and case observations, and also between induction and deduction approaches. This movement between induction and deduction, or the combining thereof, is called the abduction logic, and I will dwell a fair bit on this logic as we go further. The relevance and rigor of the results or of the outcome are achieved by this moving back and forth between induction and deduction approaches using a nonlinear mode method data collection. It means that it's not sequential. Yeah, so we move between action and case, and between case and action until we can actually come up with a conclusion. Therefore, it enables the repeated attempts to align theory with practice until they are systematically matched. Okay, so we have the case study where we are observing how that matching is happening. So we are observing in real life. It's a prospective study. So through those observations, and we're seeing the the outcomes of the experiments that we are doing, and the testing that we are doing of those theory. So it's in real time. It is participative. So we are looking at that from the participative, perspective. We are also looking at the case study there as the retrospective. So we're looking at all those pre-studies, the experience we have had in the field, other the inquiries that we do, previous interviews, and also the ongoing supplemental interviews. They come into that, so we are observing that as well. So the researcher is looking from outside, so it's giving that distant perspective. I will now give you an overall overview of how this works. Okay, so starting from the research problem, okay, we also want to see what is the specific issue and see that pattern of observation. We're moving back here. We want also to measure it against the theory or the pre-study, what we already know. Okay, so our participants or our subjects here, we start from the pre-measure because we want the pre-measure to and post-measure to gauge us or to give us an indication of the success of our experimental intervention. In between there, if there are any gaps, other gaps, we also want to throw in supplemental data that can come through qualitative, interview if they are real people, or like you can actually get other supplemental data to sort of see how we can correct those gaps. Whatever we are seeing here, we want to observe here to see the pattern of observations, and we go back and forth, sideways, and until we can actually come with a generalized conclusion. So abduction starts with the area of concern, which is our research problem. And this is based on the knowledge available about a phenomenon. Preliminary theoretical or conceptual framework is deduced from the results of the first real life observation, that is the real life experience. Therefore, the researcher's axiology plays an important role that is similar to their ontology and epistemology. Without this, there is no research problem. These define the researcher's worldview and their framework of reality. Following this, the primary goal of an action case study is to match theory and reality to solve a practical problem. Therefore, it is a method-driven interaction. During this method-driven interaction, the framework is successfully be modified or refined according to what is discovered through the experiments, through the fieldwork, through practice, through our analysis, and the interpretation of the data. This is what is called validation. Induction is accomplished through the case study. Okay, so through the case study, that is observing the specific issue, all right, and that is under research. This is meshed with the claims of the theory employed in the framework, all right, and also, the theory employed in the framework and the deduction, also the deduction of the successes of that intervention. The success is deduced, through intervention and is gauged through pre-measures and post-measures as well as the embedded supplemental data, right? Or those qualitative questions. So data is moved back and forth between the experimental intervention and case observation until a generalized conclusion has been reached. Data is then graded through methodological triangulation. Let me just give you a little hint before I go to the next stage. Especially like with novice researchers, we are always confronted by the question of positionality. What's your position as the researcher? Now, the researcher's positionality does not always have to be to have a negative impact on the data. In action case study, preconceived filters are inevitable. The researcher cannot separate themselves from the context of the research problem. If a researcher is suggesting that little children prefer ice cream over broccoli, and the researcher is seeking to find a way to improve children's consumption of broccoli, the researcher is already asserting themselves in that position. So they are setting that the less consumption of broccoli is a pre-existing factor. They already believe it. So that is called a necessary bias. Now, a question like, what triggered the research? Why is it a researchable problem? What knowledge does the researcher have from pre-studies or experience? In other words, what we are saying here is, what are their inevitable biases? This awareness of the necessary and inevitable biases is called reflexivity. However, the researcher will need to disclose this early in the research process uh, to enable quality control and to guide objectivity. Okay, so just to summarize and to just give you a description of what we spoke about. Okay, so we can tell from what we have discussed so far that the resultant outcome of an action case study, um, you know, and its relevance to real life problems is twofold. So we get an action outcome through the experiment or solving of a practical problem, because we are solving a problem as we are learning. So number one, the action outcome through the experiment or solving of the practical problem in real time, and also a research outcome in the form of contribution to theory. All right. So action case study compensates for the limitations of induction and deduction methodological approaches when conducted separately. The iteration result in an evidence-based outcome that helps develop a hybrid understanding of theory and its translation to practice. So first, it can enrich an existing theory through a modified theoretical framework, or to discover completely new aspects in terms of new hypotheses or proposition for future studies, or next steps in the studies or implementations. It also allows the testing of theory in both a natural environment and a real time. All right. So we can see we have the theoretical knowledge here that we already have, and we are testing it in the area of concern in real time. We validate it through the testing and the action and the experiments, and and we test it and matching it against the theory, the theoretical framework, and then we can contribute to academia, or we can create a hypothesis for further testing. It also has the methodological implications, yeah, and also the practical implications by solving those issues, yeah. And as we have discussed, going back and forth and contributing to that, it also gives us the application of conclusion. So we can actually have a quantitative deduction of what we have studied. Yeah. Um, so an action outcome is in the form of beneficial intervention to organizational concerns. So we can actually find, if you are doing this from an organization standpoint, like the academia benefits, but also the hosting organization can actually find or learn as they go as well. So it's got dual benefits, and it bridges practice and and learning, it practice and academia. Um, yeah, so basically, this is what I would like to present today. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for listening. I would just need to make a couple acknowledgement. My candidature is supported under the Commonwealth Government's Research Training Program, the Research Training Scheme, and the financial support provided by the Australian government is gratefully acknowledged. I would also like to acknowledge, my supervisors, the never tiring supervisors, Dr. Ashlyn Sehai, Professor Ellen Willis, Dr. Samantha Fian, and Dr. Robin Preston. Without them, I would be very far, 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 far away from where I am at the moment. Um, I would like to just leave you with a couple references in case if you want to learn more about the action case study. So these are the pioneers. These are references I'm giving you. These are the pioneers of this research design. So if you want to go in depth to see, like learn more and how to apply it, to have a basic understanding and a background understanding of this research design, I encourage you to just go, like, my favorite one is Helica. They have a couple publications, but the one in 2015, it actually sort of gives you that shaping, mapping out of how we can conduct it. Yen is pretty much recent as well, so it gives an outline of how we can actually do it to accumulate the data, and also to to practice the knowledge in the workplace or in the field, and to apply that in the learning setup as well. But to sort of understand it all, you need to maybe go to Brian Vision. Those are the pioneers. Those are the people who designed who designed this, research framework. So, like, I leave this with you. And as I said, I also have some publications out there. So feel free, to cite me. Feel free to read, search me up. And if you need collaboration, I'm open for collaboration. We can work together on the next projects. Why not? Let's do it. So I would like to thank you, everyone, for listening. I would like to thank specifically, the organizers of this event, for enabling me to sort of presenting to you, and to share with you what I know about this research design. I hope it did help you. I hope you find it useful. If any question, my email address, you have it. And like, you can reach out to me, and then we can sort of, like, I'll share what I know. I'll share with you what I know. So thank you so much. Thank you very much. We will meet again in the next programs.